Hello all. One of the simple truths of having cancer is you're going to be taking a lot of drugs. Whether it be your chemo drugs, if you have an oral version of it, the steroids that they give you, painkillers, anything. There's going to be a lot that goes along with it. I just kind of want to recount what I had to go through and what all the various stuff that I had to take while I'm going through all of this. One of the things that you are probably going to have to be on is steroids. I say probably because there's a pretty good chance that you're going to have to be on steroids for a good chunk of the time that you are actually going through all of this. However, if you do a few things right and you basically stick to a regular health plan set forth by your dietitian, as well as take a ridiculous amount of supplements, you might be able to actually not have to take the steroids. Now, you may be sitting there going, what's the big deal about the steroids? And here's what it is. Think about steroids there's two different types. And you have to think about the type that they're going to give you, which is a catabolic steroid. Think cat. If you have ever held onto a cat and it's sitting there all purring and nice, and you rubbed its stomach or something, and then all of a sudden you're bleeding and wondering, you're sad, bleeding, and wondering what is going on. Well, that's kind of what that is basically what a catabolic steroid is going to be doing to your body. Catabolic steroid will, one, shred your muscle mass. Think of a cat scratching your muscles. Completely destroys them. Two, you'll gain a bit of weight around the middle parts. For me, when they found the mass in my head, they started giving me steroids immediately, and I kind of knew that this was long run not good for me. But you do what you got to do, because obviously I had swelling in my brain, and the steroids, they do their job. They will take the swelling down, bar none. Easiest way to go with that. But the long-term effects, not so good. I literally felt my arms, you can see, in all my videos you've seen basically from like my waist up. I'm not a big guy. I'm like 6'1". I weighed 160 when this all started going through. I now weigh about 147. So my muscles completely destroyed by the steroids. So just keep that in mind. My radiologist was actually pretty funny in this regard. She was asking me, she's like, okay, so are you on steroids? And I was like, no. She kind of looked at me, and I was like, well, I managed to taper myself off of them. And she was like, interesting. She goes, not many people can do that. And she looked at me, she goes, don't worry, by the end of your radiation treatments, you're going to be on the steroids again. I was like, sure. Well, come to find out, didn't actually have to be on the steroids. I'm going to contribute that to, one, diet, supplements, but in particular, this stuff right here. A curcumin is the extract of turmeric, the root. Indian cooking uses a lot of turmeric. It's also a natural anti-inflammatory. For me, I take 8,000 milligrams of curcumin a day. It's quite a bit, but I have no sores, nothing hurts. I have had no headaches, no swelling. I'm not on steroids, so obviously something's working right. Now, that's just the steroids. Once again, remember, if you can taper yourself off of them, in the long run, it'll probably be better off for you. Some people just can't. I mean, for me, I got lucky. They removed 70% of my tumor, so it wasn't pressing on my brain. Some people may not be able to get as much, and they may still have the pressure, may have these awful headaches that you need to relieve the pressure, so you may be on the steroids. You don't know. For other forms of cancer, I'm not sure if they give you the steroids or not. I'd assume they probably would, but you never know. For the chemo, I had an oral form of the chemo, which I mentioned before. Picture. With that, I had to take it every single day for 6 weeks straight. Chemo is poison. It's poisoning you. It's also killing the cancer cells. I had someone explain to me that chemo is basically the equivalent of you have a room full of people, innocent bystanders, and there's 2 terrorists in there. You take a grenade, pull the pin, throw it in the room, and hope for the best, because it's killing everything else. You know, what chemo does is it goes through and attacks any quickly replicating cell. That includes hair follicles, your taste buds, all the stuff in your intestines, the mucus lining wall of your stomach. So that's what it goes after. Now, that was the oral form of it. For the liquid drip bag form of it, same exact thing. Often those are a lot more potent than what I have. Mine was specifically tailored to get through the blood-brain barrier so it can actually get into my brain to go attack the cancer cells there. It took about 2 weeks for me to lose my sense of taste. When I lost my sense of taste, it was atrocious, to say the least. But you got to have a heads up for this. You know, you've heard the stories most likely, and your doc may say, "Oh, you might lose your sense of taste." You're going to lose your sense of taste. It sucks, a lot. Yeah, when you lose your sense of taste, it basically goes from, "Oh, look, this is actually kind of tasty," to that's what it tastes like. Everything tastes god-awful, or it tastes like cardboard. And there is a reason I went from 160 pounds to 145. 6 weeks of chemo for me. And remember, I'm not on like the heavy-duty, like serious chemo. I was on the oral stuff, but still, you just don't want to eat. Nothing tastes good. By week 3, I was miserable. Everything was just horrible. You know, I would be sitting there drinking my green smoothie, just gagging it down because, contrary to popular belief, yeah, you sit there and go, all right, well, you can't taste anything, so what's the big difference? When you can't taste anything, there's a lot of joy associated with eating, and when that goes away, it's kind of hard to eat. So just be aware that there's a good chance you're going to lose your sense of taste. Now, with that, if you actually do lose your sense of taste, make sure you talk to your doctor immediately. As soon as you notice the signs of your sense of taste going away, they can give you stuff that can help, at least somewhat, to get your sense of taste back. For me, of all things, I told my doc, I walked in there like week 3 and I met with him. I was just kind of looked at him like, I have no sense of taste. Is there anything you can do for me? He just looked at me and goes, yeah, of course. He goes, pulls out his prescription pad and writes a prescription. He goes, here you go. That's an antifungal. And I was like, okay, an antifungal for my taste. He goes, yeah. He said, because your system's so out of whack, because the chemo's attacking everything in your system, you know, there's a delicate balance within the ecosystem of your body, and we've just basically blown it out of the water. So the fungus that is naturally actually in your body, especially around your tongue, starts growing a bit, and he said, the reason why you're not tasting anything is because you have a literal layer of like fungus on your tongue. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, oh my God, are you kidding me? And he's like, no, that's what's happening. So take the antifungal, you know, you just put it in your mouth, it's like a lozenge. You suck on it like 3 times a day, and it will actually help get your sense of taste back. And I was like, oh, that's so disgusting. So start popping these things 3 times a day. About a week later, my sense of taste did start to come back, which was nice. I mean, it wasn't anywhere near what it was supposed to be, but it did come back, which made eating a little bit easier. With the eating, I know your loved one is going to be going through a hard time, and this is for someone that doesn't have cancer and you happen to be watching this. If you have someone in your life that is going through cancer, don't pressure them into trying to eat, okay? They'll eat when they can. Most of us, we're adults, well, except if you're obviously a kid. Most of us are adults. And you know, you realize you have to eat, and you will do it. It's just not going to be on a set schedule. And sorry, Mom, I kind of have to throw this one out there. I was living with my parents at the time because they were like really close to where I needed to go for like my treatments. So it was easier just to live with them. Well, I'd be sitting there like just staring at my food, whatever it was, sighing, and like picking at and eating a little bit at a time. And my mom, God bless her, was like, you have to eat, you have to eat. Which made me on the inside just recoil and go, now I don't want to eat. So, yes, it is important that you eat when you are going through chemo. You'll chug stuff down. You'll just have to do it. And you will. But it's really, really hard for the person going through all this. I mean, you feel horrible, trust me. Symptoms when you're going through chemo: loss of appetite. You feel nauseous pretty much all the time. And there's not much you can do. So please be gentle with the person that's going through like chemo and radiation, because they're not going to want to eat. They will eat on their own. Just keep an eye on them, but don't bug them. Please do them a favor. Now, the next thing is about the supplements. Yes, they are not the drugs. However, you're going to be taking a lot of these supplements. Remember the book that I told you to read, Natural Cures for Cancer? In that book, the guy has listed all the things that you need to take supplement-wise, so that it'll make the process a little bit easier for you. One of the things that, now, as I said, it's required reading. There's a reason for that. It's extensive, it's lengthy, and just to give you an indication, the picture that's up on the page, like my little icon, that has all those pill bottles, yeah, those are the supplements I have to take every single day, as well as the Keppra, because it's an anti-seizure drug, because the whole thing that got me started with this and how I got diagnosed with cancer was a seizure, so they don't want me having one of those again. But I am going to give you two things. One, the nausea that you're going to be experiencing. For me, it was okay with just the chemo. I mean, I went through my second round of chemo, not a problem. Felt no nausea whatsoever. If you're going through chemo and radiation, that's where it starts getting really bad. The nausea, it will just come up. You just kind of, for me, it felt like I was had this seasickness feeling all the time in the background. You may want to pick up a pair of these. These are C-bands. I don't know if it's psychosomatic or what, but they did help. You got to put them in the right areas as well, which is basically 3 fingers down from top of your wrist, right about here. That's where it's going to be. And you wear those things, and for me, it actually did help. Now, by about week 4, it hit a point where I was just feeling nauseous all the time. With that, another thing, if you are feeling that nauseous, talk to your doctor. They can give you more anti-nausea meds, which, once again, more meds to take, and you just hope. I went through 3 different anti-nausea meds. The first ones that they gave me kind of worked, then they stopped working. The second ones they gave me didn't work at all. The third ones they gave me did work quite well. Interesting thing of note, they were an antipsychotic drug. I'm like, oh, great. Go figure. Antipsychotic drug helps cure feeling vomitous. Whatever. Your throat, your mouth, the cells in there are getting destroyed on a regular basis, because once again, chemo goes after the quickly replicating, which is right there. One product that helped me quite a bit, that was recommended by, when I went to the health food store and they said, okay, I told them what I was going to be going through. They're like, you need this. It's called Alloforce. For me, when I woke up in the morning, 2 ounces, put that in a cup, threw some water in it, put it in my mouth, swished it for about 30 seconds, swallowed it, swallowed the rest. Same thing at night. Noticeable difference throughout. There was a point where I actually ran out of it, and I was like, oh, maybe I don't need it. Bad idea. I instantly, the next day when I didn't use it, my throat just kept getting worse and worse and worse. This stuff works so it starts making the mucous membranes within your throat and your stomach actually start to produce more and more mucus to protect you. So that is one thing I'm going to recommend. So out of all of this, I'm going to recommend 3 things. C-bands, Alloforce, curcumin. Great products. I'll put them in the description. That way it's easy to find. Okay, so once again, remember, chemo, radiation, blah. Oh, I should also mention, one other effect of radiation. I know I've mentioned this before because of like my head and why I always wear the hat. They didn't tell me this. They said, okay, you may have like these little half moon points on your head where the radiation goes through. I was like, oh, okay, I can deal with that. No. I have no hair left. I'm like Charlie Brown ended up here. I mean, I have like two little tufts like back here. That's all the hair I have left. So just be aware, if you're getting radiation to the skull, you're going to lose your hair. Interesting thing, chemo didn't lose the hair, radiation did, however. So with that, good luck. See y'all later.